Hello, everyone. I'm Kenneth Adams, president of LaGuardia Community College. Welcome to our Fall 2020 Closing Session program. Let me give you a brief overview of how our program is going to work this afternoon. First, I'll start with some observations on what has truly been a unique fall semester. Next, we've got a really nice recognition for years of service with a special video treat. And finally, I'll wrap up with an update on our plans for the 50th anniversary celebration. What a semester. I bet most of you are relieved that there are only 2 more days of classes left. Let's face it, fall 2020 has been quite an experience. This has been different and difficult for all of us. I would venture to say that none of us has ever done this before. An entire semester completely online. Almost everybody working from home. 13 straight weeks of distance learning, online support and services, working remotely. Let's face it, since March, for LaGuardia faculty and staff, our jobs have been challenging on many levels. For one, as I see it, our jobs have gotten much more entwined with our personal lives. It's complicated, and each one of us has a different way of coping. We each have our own story. Things we used to be able to compartmentalize, as in the search for that ideal work-life balance, break loose and get reordered. You're in the middle of a meeting with your supervisor and your daughter wants to borrow the car. Yes, a pandemic can really shake up our day-to-day. Think for a moment about the challenges we have been dealing with for the past 9 months. Staying healthy in the midst of a global pandemic and doing everything we can to keep our loved ones healthy. Dealing with the fear and anxiety when someone close to us gets COVID, or maybe we get COVID. It's really scary. The sorrow and grief when we lose a colleague, a friend, or a loved one to the virus. A sadness we'll endure for the rest of our lives. How about the challenge of working from home, of managing the balance between professional responsibilities and family obligations, all carried out in the same place, maybe the kitchen table or down in the basement. The challenge of coming to grips with the world around us. A New York City economy devastated by the pandemic with 13% unemployment today. Over 500,000 jobs lost since February, and still so many people out of work, worried about making ends meet, about paying the rent, buying food. And how about all those small businesses, arts and cultural organizations, community nonprofits, many of which are boarded up or on the rocks. And as if that weren't enough, this summer, we witnessed yet again events of horrific racist violence that shocked and roiled our country. This time, however, in the middle of a pandemic, our accumulated pain, anger, and frustration over chronic racial injustices and indignities inflicted on Black Americans were channeled into massive protests across the US and around the world in a plea for racial justice that we hope has been heard, that we hope leads to swift and meaningful change. Oh, and have you forgotten? There was a presidential election of some consequence just last month, and it seems we have a president who won't accept the result. To say we have had a lot to deal with in 2020 would be quite an understatement. So how are you going to feel on New Year's Eve? How are you going to say goodbye to 2020? Let's bring it back to LaGuardia. Despite all these many challenges, combined and layered in ways none of us could have ever experienced, from the minor hassles to the big deals, from the professional to the personal, challenges for our families, our city, our country. Despite all of this, you, LaGuardia faculty and staff, never stopped working for our students. Indeed, you stepped up. Each of you figured out a way to do your job, to help our college fulfill its promise to our 14,000 students. If people who work in healthcare are the essential workers of the moment, and indeed they are, people who work in education, all of you, are the essential workers of the future. People who work in education, who open minds and hearts to knowledge and learning, are the first responders when it comes to ensuring a free and democratic society with a prosperous economy for all. And remember this, after the brutal onset of COVID and the transition mid-March to online classes, CUNY style, after the obvious difficulties of the spring semester, almost all of our continuing LaGuardia students came back this fall. They came back because they knew that you, our LaGuardia faculty and staff, were here, waiting for them. And you had been preparing for them over the summer and were ready to meet their first for knowledge. And they wanted to return to their college, to their second home, LaGuardia, and keep moving forward. COVID was not going to stop them, and it certainly won't stop them now. In this fall semester of 2020, you all delivered big for our students. Thank you. Yes, it was hard, sometimes really hard. And believe me, I know not all of our students have made it, but most have. And they, along with new and returning students, are coming back for fall 2 and spring. They're coming back because of you, because you care for them, and they know it. And they know this isn't easy for you either. They want to thank you by doing their best. Let's think for a moment about the road ahead. Look, some of you are getting to know me and figure out that I'm an optimist, which I am. I see light at the end of this tunnel. Brighter days are definitely ahead. Think about it. A community college professor is moving into the White House next month. Vaccines to protect us for COVID are on the way. In fact, Britain approved the Pfizer vaccine for distribution last week. My sense is that the local economy will pick up speed in the new year, and jobs are going to start coming back right here in Queens and beyond. And as the threat of COVID fades, watch New York City spring back to life. We have never seen the effects of so much pent-up demand. It is exciting to think about. Yes, I'm confident also that we're going to be back on campus for the fall 21 semester. All right, next, we're going to do a year of service recognition. But before we go to the video, let me remind you of how important it is to recognize our colleagues for their length of service. Longevity of service is what gives people and organizations experience and institutional memory. You know, knowledge plus experience is where wisdom comes from. And wisdom is essential for thoughtful judgment. Our employees' experience over time creates LaGuardia's institutional memory, something we're going to celebrate, by the way, with our 50th anniversary. Remember, institutions actually don't have a memory, their people do. So institutional memory in any business, organization, college, is the foundation for sound decision-making. Successful organizations are guided by their institutional memory that comes from the people with the longest service to that institution. So we need to turn and honor the source of institutional memory, our long-serving LaGuardia employees who care about this place, who care about the place where they work. Thank you again to our LaGuardia employees for their service to this great institution. Now, one more thing before we wrap up, an update on our 50th anniversary. Remember, my friends, 50 years ago, December 5th, 1970, this college had its naming ceremony. Some of you will recall it was originally called Community College Number 9. Not a very special name. So the name was officially changed at that naming ceremony in December of 1970 to the Fiorello H. LaGuardia Community College. Mayor LaGuardia, as many of you know, was widely recognized as one of the most notable mayors of the 20th century, and he was a staunch advocate for public higher education. Now, in the year ahead, we're going to learn more about our history, honor the students, faculty, and staff that built LaGuardia, and use our past and the present to shape a path we will take for the next 50 years. We're going to be led by a 50th anniversary committee that will guide how we uncover and tell the story of our past and imagine our future. This committee, drawing on the resources from our LaGuardia and Wagner archives, the library, and many of you, will tell these stories through oral histories, student engagement in the classroom, photo montages, videos, and more. The committee is still in formation, but we have a terrific group of people who are its founding members, and some are names I'm sure you'll recognize. Avis O. Anderson, Ana Maria Hernandez, Richard Lieberman, Manny Perez, Jane Shulman, and Susan Schenker. We're grateful to them for setting up the committee and leading it as it moves forward. And I want to invite all of you to think about this. The committee is still in formation. So for any of you who might be interested in joining the committee and helping us plan and celebrate this incredible 5 decades of LaGuardia Community College, please just send me an email at your convenience and I'll get you involved in the committee. Thank you. Now, up next, a brief video teaser, a glimpse of our past and a fun celebration of just a few of LaGuardia's many achievements.
The main building was this huge former munitions factory.
And there were about 200 people that were part of faculty, staff.
It's a much different Long Island City. And as I said, Thompson Avenue was still cobblestone.
Peter Brown claimed at one point when they were building that a wrecking ball actually came through the wall in the middle of his class.
The L building is a little building across the street, across Van Dam, next to the diner that was basically, I guess, leased to us through the Board of Ed to have our photo lab over there.
Sometimes we had water coming in the ceilings.
I was teaching philosophy in the Gino's Frozen Pizza building with this really ungodly smell.
It was shabby, and we were also sharing that space with the high school kids. It felt a little bit more like like I would say like the wild, it was a little bit of a Wild West.
We had one building, which was the main building. We had a great hall.
It was the Great Wall. We had the Great Hall.
And it was just one big open space, and everybody was here, and they had little cubicles for offices.
It felt like an adventure, like a grand experiment.
We wanted to do things differently.
A much more sophisticated approach to developing programs.
It's been a place that I could fight the good fight and work with people who were like-minded. And if they weren't like-minded, we could have good conversations, good debates.
I think LaGuardia has clearly set the standard for an urban public college.
This isn't Kansas anymore.
Wasn't that fun? Now, again, if you'd like to join in the 50th anniversary committee, shoot me an email and we'll sign you up. Well, this concludes our closing session program. Thank you very much for joining me, and please have a safe and healthy, happy holiday season. Thank you.